I kept going through these circles where things kept happening and I couldn't get out of these circles, and I'd make decisions and the decisions wouldn't be right, and the problems in relationships, the wrong relationship and this and that.
Speaking my language, Dr. Lynn, speaking my language here. Come on now.
In this circle, how do I get out of this circle? And that kind of brought me to karma. Because karma is not good or bad. That's judgment. Karma doesn't, we don't look at judgment. Karma is simply cause and effect. It's an energy. What you do will come back to you, because energy goes and it makes circles and it comes back. So if I were to be rude to either one of you, you might say, okay, well, we're doing this podcast, so I'll be, I won't. But afterwards, you might go and say things about me that would hurt my reputation, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how you create karma. So if I'm kind to people, if I practice those things, that stuff comes back to me. And that's what karma means. It means whatever you put out is going to come back to you. So be careful. Yeah. Pay attention to what you do.
Yes, man. Yes, man. Yes, man. Oh, here we go again, B.
Another one.
And another one. And look, what's that?
And another one.
Brother, I'm happy I got you before you go off to Africa, man.
Yeah, tomorrow night, I'm leaving. 2 weeks.
Brother, for our subscribers, welcome back. And you already know, Brian's a traveling man.
Yeah, gotta see the world, man.
Gotta see the world. And I'm riding with Brian as soon as my passport comes back. Yep. Yeah, buddy. Let's go.
I can't wait for that.
Bro.
I'm looking forward to that. Wherever you want, once that passport comes back, wherever you want to go, we're going. Yep.
Let's go, baby. Let's go. I'm freaking in. And you know what's so cool is our guest today is just coming back from a trip, traveling, doing a thing. So I'm excited that she's here with us. Hey, listen, everyone, welcome to this More Than Black or White Health podcast. We are your hosts, Paul and
Brian.
Yeah, yep. Buddy. B, my guy. How you doing today, man?
Doing good. A little rushing around a little bit, trying to get everything ready for tomorrow, and taking the wife out for dinner before I go away. We got reservations at a restaurant, and just that's it. I'm excited about this podcast. I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, me too, bro.
I'm excited about all of them.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Well, you know what's so cool? It's like they all have that general theme of helping people find their method to health and well-being. That's what I love about what we do, right? Because we want people to be their own advocates.
Yes.
And you know what's so cool is like for people that have followed us and people that are new to this platform or to this podcast, welcome. As we mentioned, we are here to help you become an advocate for your own health and well-being. So a lot of the topics that we have range from physical, mental, spiritual, soulful. And we've talked a lot about naturopaths. Well, not a lot. Well, yeah, we have actually, B. We have naturopaths. So today we're excited to bring you a guest that's a naturopath. She's a yoga therapist. Oh, John, look, she's got a whole bunch of stuff. Let's bring her in without any further ado. Hi
guys.
Dr. Lynn in the building.
Thank you for inviting me here.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as you know, I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I'm also a yoga therapist. I'm a karma master, and that's what I've been doing for the last 40 years of my life, is practicing holistic medicine. And I just wanted to throw in a little bit. I am a world traveler. I've been to Africa. We've been on safari. And the one thing that I'll throw out here right in the beginning, because I heard you guys talking about travel, is that when you're young, or when you have the energy and you have the opportunity, see the world, you will grow as a human being tremendously through travel, as you both know.
I agree, 100%. I don't have many regrets in life, but one of the things I wish I would have just traveled more in my 20s. and just like get up. In my 20s, I was like, it's money. I didn't have the money, but you know, as you start traveling more and you become more experienced, you see all these people that you meet up and they're like, they don't have any money. They're still traveling. I'm like, man, I could have done that.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
but no, I agree. It's definitely good for the soul. Helps you grow, mature, and you see the world a lot different. I should say. That's good.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's gonna teach you. What I find is like how you manage life, because when you go travel, especially overseas, things will fail to go according to plan all the time. So how do you manage, right? In like a country that's foreign. So I think it's a great way to know.
And it will also humble you, because I can tell you that I have seen severe poverty in the world. I have seen things that you know, us in the United States, we never see.
No.
And you come back home and we are so blessed. We really are. You come home and you go, wow, my life, I don't care what's going on in my life. It's good. It's good. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, Dr. Lynn, how'd you get into this field? Were you just just growing up, you just always gravitated to this, or is there something significant that happened in your life to kind of push you into the holistic aspect?
Well, first I have to begin that I grew up on a little island off the coast of Maine. And I grew up in a fishing village, and we practiced folk medicine. There wasn't a doctor in the village, you know, and it was quite a ways to get to the doctor. So I had aunts and grandmothers and my mother. We'd make potions and things. We didn't think anything of it. It's just, you know, that's what we did. And then, you know, I just left the island and I got married and I got divorced and I went back to school as a single mother, putting myself through school with no money, on welfare, doing the whole thing, working as a bartender, trying to raise 2 kids to get through school. And when I got at the end of it, I'm a type A personality, so I wanted a 4.0. I got a 3.8. That's pretty good. You know, I wanted that 4.0. I was totally burnt out at the end. You know, I was exhausted. I had been just going as hard as I could to get that degree so I could get back out, start supporting my children. And I had a physical and a mental and a soulful collapse, just a collapse. I just couldn't do anything. And so it made me pull back to my roots and say, well, you know, the way to get healthy is I've got to take care of this body. I've got to get this mind working back, and I got to connect the soul. I got to bring them all back together. And I don't want to do it with the drugs. I don't want to do it with, you know, prescription medication. I want to do it holistically, because I knew the science behind it was so strong. And you have to go back 40 years. And for me to start doing that at that time, I can tell you that I was considered a quack. I was called many, many names, you know, a witch. I mean, whatever you want to call me, because we were using herbs and aromatherapy and nutrition and exercise. And of course, it all sort of multiplied from there. And that's really how I got started into it.
Great.
Whoa. So this, you know, B knows I always got questions. So you grew up in the environment where you got to learn about the properties of different herbs for healing. So this was something you were pretty much raised in from you were growing up. So when did you, aside from your collapse, when you started to really learn all these things, when did it really hit you like, oh, John, I need to get this to more people. Like more people need to learn about these natural properties and natural remedies. When did that happen for you?
Well, first, let me say that we were eating organic before it was even a word, because we didn't have, you know, you had to eat what the fishermen brought in is what you ate for dinner.
Yeah.
What you could get and what you could freeze and we lived, it was on an island. It was a long ways to get to town, and town didn't have much. The town next to us was a really small town. I'm in Maine, you know, back many years. So what happened was I started teaching yoga, and I started sort of moving my fingers out there a little bit. And I kept getting people coming to me and saying, my God, how did you know that I needed to hear that? How did you know I needed that? And I was like, well, I didn't know it, but it's just coming through me. And it's something I want to share with everybody. I think that the most important thing is health. It's the most important thing in your life. Nothing else matters. You lose your health, money, everything's gone. So I wanted to promote health to everybody. And so in doing that, I think it began to build. And all of a sudden I would look around and the room would be packed with people. And it just kept growing and growing. And then I was asked to speak at places. And that's kind of how it all started to go. And it was really, I would say that it was there. You know, it wasn't anything that I intentionally set out to do. It's just, it was part of my soul, part of my mission.
Great.
Oh, B, you have something?
Yeah, like, so my background too is I'm a holistic health practitioner, so I've worked with a lot of people, and there's like an overwhelming a lot of stuff that you want to kind of present to people that come to you that are unhealthy. Just curious, like, what are your like top 2 or 3 things that you focus on right away? I'm sure one of them is like you try to eat more organic foods, like you mentioned, but I just want to kind of an idea where you kind of start with people. So if somebody comes to you sick, where do you kind of go into?
The first thing I do is we talk and we explore and we develop a sense of trust. Because if someone is ill physically, there's a mental component and there's a soulful component. There's a disconnect somewhere. And we can't fix one without fixing the other. That's what a naturopath, that's our philosophy. Our philosophy is your body, mind, and soul. And all 3 need to be healed and connected and balanced. So if I just address the body and I don't address the other 2, I'm not doing the right thing by the person. And oftentimes you would be surprised the underlying things that will come out that's going on in their life that is creating these kind of issues. And so we have to get to that, as opposed to, and I don't mean to bash the medical profession because we need, you know, doctors out there, but, you know, you go to a doctor and say, you know, I got this, and the doctor goes, take it. See me in 6 months. Okay, I'm taking chemicals in my body. I'm not addressing the issue, but we're masking it. And my goal was to really get to the root of what's going on with a person.
I just got to say real quick, Dr. Lynn, you just went straight to Brian's heart where you talked about, like, not to poo-poo on the medical profession. His smile, he was just like, bing! That's listen, we talk about that. And I think thank you for bringing that up, because I think it's important to note when we're talking, like you mentioned that we both need each other. I know I've heard a couple of your interviews and you talked about that same thing. Like one of these examples you gave was when someone goes and you get antibiotics for like a urinary infection or something like this. So what happens after the antibiotics go and completely obliterate everything? We got to restart. So this is where the naturopath can come in. So just from this point, because I want to touch on the naturopath, but get to the soul piece. Can you give a brief description for people that are unfamiliar with the naturopath? What are the distinctions between a naturopath and like a medical doctor, like a general practitioner that they would see through insurance?
Okay. We focus on the natural sciences. We believe that the natural sciences is what will bring about balance to your life. So, for example, light has an effect on all of us. That would be a good example. Color affects us.
Yeah.
So if you're not getting the right kind of light, if you're getting, overhead fluorescent lights, that's not good. That's not good for humans. Humans didn't evolve that way. They evolved under natural sunlight. Colors affect us. What we smell affects us. What we taste affects us. So we look at the natural sciences, which is nutrition. The foundation is nutrition, and it's exercise, and it's sleep. Those are the 3 pillars. And from there, we reach out into chromotherapy, which is color therapy, aromatherapy, herbology, and using the other parts of the natural world to bring us under balance, because that's how we evolved. We didn't evolve in a chemical, world. We evolved in a natural world. So that's the difference between us.
Love it. Thank you. So now people, when you hear, because we're damn sure going to clip that, when you hear us talk about naturopath, now you have a distinct guide. Thank you, Dr. Lynn. Bless up. They may not want to hear it from B&I because they hear it all the time. So there we go.
Glad I could help.
Bless up to you. Bless up to you. So let's talk about the soul and karma piece, because I think that this is fascinating, and I like how you wove in when Brian asked you what do you do, and you said you talk to people, and you mentioned trust and soul. So can you share with the people what is the concept behind a karma master? Because that's one of the precious titles I've ever seen. So break it down for us, por favor, please.
If you want to master something, you have to read. You have to read to know.
Yeah.
You have to write, because you have to then take that knowledge and write. And then you have to teach. So a master is someone who has studied, practiced, written, and taught for a long amount of time. And that's what I've been doing for 40 years. And it has always been a focus on karma. So that is what creates a master in anything. Yeah. You have to go through those processes in order to become a master.
Blessings. And what got you to really bring that karma piece into your practice with everything that you grew up with and everything that you learned in school? What brought that component into this for you?
Well, I kept going through these circles where things kept happening and I couldn't get out of these circles, and I'd make decisions and the decisions wouldn't be right, and the problems in relationships, the wrong relationship and this and that.
Speaking my language, Dr. Lynn, speaking my language here. Come on now.
In this circle, how do I get out of this circle? And that kind of brought me to karma, because karma is not good or bad. That's judgment. Karma doesn't, we don't look at judgment. Karma is simply cause and effect. It's an energy. What you do will come back to you, because energy goes and it makes circles and it comes back. So if I were to be rude to either one of you, you might say, okay, well, we're doing this podcast, so I'll be, I won't. But afterwards, you might go and say things about me that would hurt my reputation, right? So that's how you create karma. So if I'm kind to people, if I practice those things, that stuff comes back to me. And that's what karma means. It means whatever you put out is going to come back to you. So be careful. Yeah. Pay attention to what you do.
It reminds me of the Hermetic law of cause and effect.
Yeah. It's simply, everything is simply energy. If you look at it that way, that it's just energy moving. And we are physically here because the molecules of our body are spinning slower. So it slows down to the material world. But it's just like water. Water flows. If you heat it up, it evaporates. If you cool it down, the molecules, they freeze. And that is really what energy is all about. That's what we believe energy is all about. It's a body, it's a mind, and it's a soul. Your body is the ice, your mind is the flowing, and the steam would be your soul.
I dig that.
Yeah, it's an analogy.
Yeah, I like that. I want to highlight something that you're saying, that I'm hearing in what you're saying, and is that karma is neutral. It's dependent on what you put into it, like what you make it, right? And I think when I hear karma, like I had to really look at that for a second, because like how I use karma, and I'm recognizing that like usually I'm using karma on the negative. Like if somebody does something to me, I'm like, karma's gonna get your ass. But I'm like, at the same time, it's like if I do something that's positive, that can come back too. Like so, like what I'm eating or how I'm treating my body. So what do you?
Exactly. Well, let me give you an example of something. If I go out and I steal something, I'm a thief, whether I get caught or not.
Right.
I'm a thief. And I'm going to carry that energy with me. Now, maybe I'll never get caught. I'm going to spend my whole life looking over my shoulder. Okay? Now, is that a way to live your life?
Nope.
So there's karma working. So it doesn't necessarily mean that if you punch someone, they're going to punch you back.
Right.
You may punch someone and it may make a big circle and it's going to come back and get you in another way somehow, And so when people do the pop culture, good and bad karma, if I say something bad's going to come, that's really not karma. It's just cause and effect. It's just energy. That's all we are, is energy. And you have the free will to choose how you dispense your energy and what energy comes to you. You have that free will.
Oh man. Yeah, I really dig this a lot, like when we talk about this, because you know, I just look at things in my life and I'm like, man, karma's gonna get them. And I realize like sometimes I may not have to do anything, just like let whatever their actions, let them get the results and I could step out of it. And I think that's something that could really, I like that example you had of the thief. People forget that when we do something, even if we don't get caught, that junk will weigh on your ass. You know, weigh on.
Exactly.
You
And
know?
then what happens? You're stressed out. The body starts to get sick. The mind gets scattered, you know, and then you have ill health.
Right.
Okay, karma got you. You
That's
know,
what I'm
karma
talking
got you.
about. Yes. Yes. So it's wild. Because I just finished up not just, but I did this 21-day detox, right? And I released a lot of waste. And I felt that, wow, I realized I'm like, man, these were all things that I accumulated from these foods that I was eating when I was stressed out. I was angry. I was in grief. Like the energy I was putting into this food that I was consuming was horrible. It was like, but I was eating because I was stuffing it to address certain things. And I appreciate, like, I'm assuming that that's part of what the naturopath is going to get you to address. Like, what's your state of when you talk about the body, mind, and soul? I think people really discount. That's why I love what Brian and I do. I think people discount the importance of having all three of those in unison for optimal health and well-being. It's
You're
interesting.
absolutely right, because many times people would come to me and it would be they wanted to lose weight. They saw this as a way to lose weight. And they would come to me and it would be like, okay, Dr. Lynn, take out your magic wand, tap me on the head, give me a pill, and let's do it. And when I would say to them, it's going to take at least 120 days for us to make progress, they'd be like this. You know, because we in our society want things instantaneously, and the
Right.
world doesn't operate that way. If you run your body down, it's not going to come back with a pill. It's going to come back through a process. You have to build that body back up again. And I think that's where people, naturopathy and medicine, you know, we're in a society where we just, you know, go to the doctor. We're used to letting the doctor just write the prescription and take the pill. And that doesn't mean, using your example of antibiotics, if you have a really bad infection, you may have to take those antibiotics.
Right.
You know, there is a purpose and a reason for doctors and for medicine. But where they fall down, I believe, is they don't do the follow through afterwards. I put you on all these drugs, I put you through surgery, whatever I've done. Now let's holistically build you back up. That's where I believe that the medical profession falls off the cliff.
So
that and preventive medicine too. You know, like you go to a doctor, you have all these ailments. When's the last time you went to a doctor and be like, all right, give me like a food journal of what you've been eating, how your thoughts been, how's your sleep patterns been? Like Paul and I, we have this conversation all the time. Listen, I break an arm, I have an infection, I'm going to a doctor. But for them to teach me about general health and health prevention, I might as well go to my mechanic. I'll get the right answer. You know,
well, you know, Brian,
that cracks me up
doctors
every
are
time.
required. Medical doctors take one primary course in nutrition in all of their. It's like, I mean, basic.
Like 4 hours, right, or something like that on average, like 4 hours, and they just basically learn about what a protein does, a carb, and a fat, and that's it. Thanks for playing.
Exactly, and then that goes right off the top of their head, you know, because they're into what they're doing. I mean, but that's not. I mean, I have worked. I've worked with traditional doctors and worked synergistically with them, and we've had wonderful relationships where we could balance that all out. So it's the ideal is when the two come together and they work together, because we need both. We need the science.
Yes.
We need the medical, but we also need the holistic approach as well. And that's when we will reach the ultimate in healthcare, but we're still a long ways from that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a shame. What do you think?
Like, go ahead, Paul.
No, after you. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, because like, I mean, from what I understand, is like these pharmaceutical companies, they fund these colleges a lot of money, and they have pretty much, they can tell the colleges what to teach what to teach the students. So they only teach them like a pill for this ill, or how to cut, how to do surgery, how to prescribe this. Then they get into the field, and I've worked with, I mean, I have a lot of friends that are doctors and they're good people and I've learned a lot from them. But a lot of them, I feel like after about 10, 15, 20 years, they start getting really depressed because they go in there with the good intentions of trying to help people. And they realize they're nothing more than glorified, pharmaceutical reps. And they're just,
Right.
they can't really work outside the box. And it's sad to kind of see that,
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because I was engaged to a doctor years ago,
Mhm.
a emergency room doctor, and I remember him saying to me, every day all I do is see people that are sick. And he said to me, when you're teaching, especially fitness and yoga and things like that, you're teaching health and you're getting people healthy. And all he saw was sickness and depression. And yes, and I agree with you. After about 20 years, it's all the pharmaceuticals and all that stuff. They just kind of get caught up in that whole thing and forget sometimes what is really important. Yeah.
Damn. Oh man. So all right. So yeah, that's just really sad. I'm just thinking about this from a doctor's perspective because I really never thought about it that way. Like I've told Brian about the relationship I have with my general practitioner, and we've developed a relationship because I've wanted accountability and I've taken responsibility for things that I could do on my side of the street. So like I'm on some high blood pressure medication, like so my goal is to get off of it. He knows that. But I think it's very interesting because I think the majority of people really fail to even take any kind of responsibility for their health.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll just go in and be like, all right, doc, I'm like 20, 50 pounds overweight. What do you got for me?
Right.
Yes. Okay, thanks. I'll see you in 6 months. So it's like, I think it's interesting how that works. So we're gonna do something a little bit different for a quick moment. We're gonna do some like Neville Goddard goodness, and we're gonna imagine a different world. So where things are right now, I'd like you to tap into if you were to imagine what it would take for our society to start on the path or be holistic. What are the paths? Like, let's imagine what's the path that people begin to start taking, or the actions rather people begin to start taking to get there.
Well, the first thing is, I believe the first thing is to find a sense of peace and serenity within yourself and with everyone in the world. We live in a world of karma teaches us we have 4 great passions that we all must encounter and overcome in this world. And they are deceit, greed, anger, and pride. And everything stems from those. And if you think about those 4 great passions, if we could remove those 4 great passions, we would live in a much better world because people would be honest, they'd be generous, they'd be kind, and they'd be humble. And if you had those 4 things going on, we would be sharing and we would be caring about each other. And I think that's where we, as a society, have fallen through the cracks because there is, there's so much deceit, greed, anger, and pride out there right now that it can drive you crazy. And sometimes you just have to get away from the social media and all that stuff, to re-anchor yourself. So I think that's the beginning. And then the second thing that I would say is to really come and value the most important thing in life, and that's health. Because the minute you lose your health, you start to lose everything. And I always use Steve Jobs as an example. He had all the money, all the power, all the stuff. He couldn't do a thing, could he, at the end? So once you lose your health, that's it. It doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
It's gone. So it's a understanding, and we don't appreciate and we take our health for granted. When you get sick with a cold, that's what I always remind my students. You get a little common cold, you get the flu, right? Oh, you feel so terrible. And then that day when the fever goes and you feel better, it's like, wow, and you appreciate it. 2 days later, you're out there drinking and partying and doing everything. It's really coming back and understanding that you better take care of your health. That's what you need in life. Yeah, you can get through anything to get your health.
People fail to recognize how important this is, and it's a lifestyle. It's a pattern. It is a pattern. It's like what do you choose to do with your life, like how you're living it? Because that all contributes to your health. Like, people can go around eating stuff and how they're eating or what they're drinking and stuff, and they're failing to recognize the damage that it's doing. And I think alcohol is a big piece of this too, because, like, listen, party people who are watching, I want you all to be I'm free of judging, because I love myself a Heineken and a really good Scotch. I'm just saying, when we overdo it, though, we're damaging our body. We're creating a whole kerfuffle in our whole systems, man. Not a good look.
You just said the key. The key is moderation in all things. That's what yoga teaches you. Moderation in all things. So if you have a glass of wine with a dinner,
yep,
right, or after work, or a drink, wonderful. But do you drink the whole bottle? Then you start to poison yourself. It would be just like if I sat down and I ate carrots, and I ate tons of carrots. I'm going to have too much vitamin A in my body, and my skin's going to turn orange. That's a fact. What happened? So you can't eat too much broccoli, or you're going to, everything in moderation. Some things, tobacco, but tobacco started out in moderation too. If you think about it, that's where tobacco came. It was something they relaxed with, and it was a couple puffs off a pipe, and that was it. But we, human beings, consume until we take it to a toxic level. And that is as equally as important with health too. I've had women come to me who were so anorexic and sick because they were eating nothing but beets, because that was going to, make them healthy. And they weren't eating any bad foods or any of that stuff. But yet they were sicker than the person who was going to McDonald's. So it's moderation.
Yeah. So listen, I hate to say this, but like, this is, I'm almost afraid to admit this to you. But like, the other day I was watching this thing with my sister and brother-in-law. It was like the food that made America, and they had McDonald's versus Burger King, right? So all this, watching this show about the Whopper and the Big Mac, I'm like, I have a craving. I'm like, I'm getting a Big Mac. I'm like, so I went and got a Big Mac, and I'm sitting here. I'm like, oh my goodness! Instead of beating myself up, right? This was crazy. Because instead of being like, I shouldn't be eating this, which is something I would normally do, and for people that are watching, maybe that's something that you do, I took the time to actually taste what this was. Mm-hmm. And crazy thing is I didn't even finish it, because I was like tasting, like, I think I even tasted the sesame seeds, what was all the ingredients in the special sauce. But I noticed, like, because I actually took the time to taste it, like, I got fuller, because it's, like, listen, we all know it's not like grade A grass-fed beef, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is like, I blessed the food. I thanked the food. I even thanked the woman at the drive-thru. I was like, you know what? Thank you. Bless up. Whoever made those fries, man, you put the right amount of salt. But like, I think it's important for people to know, like, hey, listen, if you have that every now and then, right? Okay. But if you still have a diet that, or a nutrition plan that you're getting your greens, you're getting your water, you're hydrated, you're eating your vitamins, your minerals, and whatever sources you need, you can have that kind of moderation and that kind of sway, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that leads into, like, I want to talk to something that I saw when I was reading up about you, where you talked about proactive aging. Mm-hmm. I think that the way that we consume and the foods that we consume now are contributing to us aging on a more rapid basis. So can you chop it up with us about this concept of proactive aging, what it is, and how you see that really benefiting people going forward?
Well, it's based on the 3 pillars of health: diet, diet, exercise, and sleep. And we know that those 3 things need to be in balance and moderation. And again, like you said, if we deny ourselves things, if you take and you say to someone, you can't have any cookies, all they're going to think about is those cookies. And what I used to do with my clients, they would come and I would say, okay, here's what you need to eat in order to get all the nutrition, your nutrition. Now, when you're done with that, eat all the cookies you want. Go for it. They're full by the time they've eaten all of that. They put healthy things in, and then they've kind of gotten away from that. Yes. But if I said to them, you can't have any cookies, they're going to say, this broccoli tastes terrible. I want a cookie. So it's a matter of, the whole thing comes into, that's what karma teaches us. It's what yoga teaches us. It's balance. And the only way you find balance is moderation. You never find it by going to either extreme. And sometimes I think people think if you go the holistic way, or you get into yoga, you can't do any of this stuff and it's going to be really restrictive. That's not what it's about at all. Right. It really isn't. It's about coming back in and finding that sense of balance and being able to connect.
So you mentioned yoga a good amount already. And actually, I think we need to do a yoga episode, because I'm a yoga teacher and I'm embarrassed that we have yet to do one. Okay. We're putting it in. When you get back from Africa, man, we're going to be like, Mama say, Mama sa, Namaste. So I want to check in, because you said something really interesting about yoga and how people, like, there could be a perception sometimes when people think like, oh, well, if you do yoga, you can't do this. Like, I remember when people found out I taught yoga, they were like, do you eat meat? I'm like, yes. Why? Like, I thought yogis were vegetarians. I was like, bro, what are you reading? Like, what? It's like, so I want to tap in, because you do yoga therapy. And how does that play in everything that you do? Like, how do you weave that in with like the karma? Just how does that work for you in what you do and work with others?
Well, it's all interconnected. If you look at yoga, yoga is all about finding balance, and yoga is about health. I mean, the primary goal of yoga is health and happiness. That's really the primary goal of yoga. Yes. And the primary goal of naturopathy is health and happiness. I mean, if you have health and you have happiness, you got it all. You got it all. Yeah. You can have all the money in the bank. If you're not healthy and you're not happy, forget it. But if you're healthy and you're happy and you're content and you're loving your life, wow, what a wonderful place to be. So that's how it all kind of weaves in. And when I teach, I always throw in some naturopathy. I might throw some nutrition thing in that I can weave into the yoga class, so that they're getting a holistic class, not just, here we are, let's do a down dog. Doesn't that feel good? No. Why are you doing the down dog? What is it doing physically? What is it doing mentally? What is it doing soulfully to bring you to that place? And that's really how I kind of weave all three together.
It's like karma yoga.
Yeah, that's what I teach. Yes. Yeah.
That's the best. You got a question, or you good?
Yeah, kind of curious. Kind of go into another direction. Like, so I don't want to kind of like treat it like a doctor. If somebody comes in like with an issue, you give them a pill for something. But for most people, like, what do you see? Like, if they add these types of foods in, or these type of essential oils in, or these types of herbs in, they can see a pretty big difference right away.
What do I see when this happens?
Yeah, like, what do you see if people are like malnourished in, or they could use a couple like herbs or essential oils to kind of start feeling a little better?
Well, I find that when they come in, if we really work together and we're working on that progress of whatever their particular thing is, because everybody has their own individual need and what's going on in their life. It's a matter of, again, we go back to the trust factor, but they have to be willing to do. I can't do it for you. You have to do it yourself. You have to be committed. I'm only a guide. That's all I am. I'm a guide to help you, but I can't do. And that's where oftentimes people will come to me. I can remember some people coming to me and like, well, do it for me, Dr. Lynn. Take care of it for me. I can't. It's up to you. And if you don't want to do it, that's not a shame on you. It's your choice. You have a choice what you do. And I think for some people, it's hard to wrap your head around of, you know what? I got a choice in this world. I can choose how I see the world. I can choose my attitude. I can choose all of those things, no matter what chaos. And there's always chaos. And there's always all this stuff going on. There'll always be war. There'll always be famine. There never has been a time when there isn't that. There will always be chaos in the world. But how do you find peace within it? And if you can do that, You got it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
I like
Difficult.
that.
Difficult because things will be thrown at you every day. And, I would tell you, I am very calm, and I'm a very calm person, especially when I'm teaching and working with my clients. And so many times people would come up to me and say, "Oh, Dr. Lynn, you're so soulful and so connected, and your life must be so." And I would look at them and say, "I have a husband, I have children, I have grandchildren, I have bills to pay. I have, if somebody cuts me off in traffic, that's life.
Yeah.
This isn't, you have to work really hard to stay in this place because we all have things, and there's nobody in this world that has it all together. They don't. We have to work. That's what karma means. Get up and work every day. Work at it. Yeah.
Like that.
Every day work on it, and it's a choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a choice. It's like when I hear people say, "Oh, I need to do this." I was like, actually, no, you don't. You don't need to do anything. You can choose to.
That's correct. You can choose not to. It's
Yeah.
up to you. And
There
guess
you
what?
go.
I remember
That's
reading a book on Ken Wilbur, who's like a famous psychologist, and he was like pretty much 90% of people don't have the mental capacity or emotional capacity past the age of 12. So their mommy and daddies are their doctors, their government, and they're never actually fully developed into an adult mindset. And
yeah.
it's
It's
kind of
awareness.
like back in what you're saying.
Yeah, it's awareness. It's like, I taught 2 yoga classes today, and that's really what I was emphasizing to all my students is, you've got deceit, greed, anger, and pride out there running around, and but you got to be aware of it. If you get angry and you're aware of what anger feels like, and when you get angry, we've all experienced anger. It takes over your body and this, everything, your mind, everything. If you can grab it in that moment and say, "Oh, wow, anger's got me." Take a breath, step back,
Mm-hmm.
and then approach it with a little more compassion and understanding. You're going to get through it much easier.
Yep.
But if anger gets a hold of you and you're not aware of that anger's there, then you're going to explode.
Yeah.
And
That kind of brings back your karma, right? So if you explode, you probably do something that you probably wouldn't do with a clearer head, and sooner or later, that effect that you had on that person, that situation, is going to come full circle and bite you in your ass at a later date. So fix it now or suffer the repercussions later, right?
Right. Well, karma says, if you get hit by an arrow, the
Mm-hmm.
wound will heal. You're hit by words, they last forever.
Yeah.
Ooh, what?
Last forever. And so you want to think about, do you really want to wound someone that way? And we do. And we usually wound the people we love the most. We're in a relationship. You guys, you're mature men, I mean, if you've got a husband or a wife or, I mean, you have those moments. But you have to step back and take a breath. And are they really worth it? 99.9% of the time, most of the stuff that we get upset about is worthless. It's worthless garbage. Pay attention to that 1%. That's the important.
That's up. So there's something I want to check in with you on. I know we're coming up on the hour, but like when I was looking at the things that you were open to discussing, there were a couple things that really stood out to me that I want to touch on that I think are topics that are rarely discussed when it comes to health and well-being. One is sex, the other is the occult.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, like with everything you see going on with just what's happening between men and women, like dating, like people's relationship health, where do you see like our sexual health is, and where do you see it's gone wrong and going right?
Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing to understand is the very first thing you are in this world is a sexual being. Long before you have a name, long before you have anything, you are a sexual being. That
like
is
male, female, or like sexual, like creative sexual being?
Creative. When the egg and the sperm come together, there's a sexual being there.
Mm-hmm.
It's either male or that's the first thing you are. What is the dog? It's a girl. Then you give it a name. It's a boy. You don't have a name before that. You don't have a face, you don't have anything before that.
Right.
So and understanding that, so your sexuality it defines you. It's so important, and it's an important part of your health. We know scientifically that there are foods we can eat, there are things we can do to improve our sexuality, our sexual essence, our ability to perform. Oh, whatever it is, your sex is part of your health, and it's a very important to all of us. I mean, it's a very important part of who we are, and it's one of the beautiful gifts. If you take it as a gift, is one of the beautiful gifts that life gives us, because it is the creation of a new soul comes out of that very act of sexuality. So it's a beautiful thing if we use it that way. The problem is, like everything in the world, there's a way to twist it and use it in a very negative way. Everything has a positive and a negative, and everything can take that twist. So if we take sexuality and we twist it, it becomes, a problem for people. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of men and women, it really comes down to a respect and an appreciation. If I appreciate my sexuality and I appreciate my femininity and I appreciate your masculinity, and we try to respect each other, because we're different. Men and women are different. They don't think the same. They don't act the same. They're very different. And you can hear women say all the time, men don't listen, right? I'm sure you've heard that from women. Men don't listen,
Several times.
And you can go and talk to another woman and she gets exactly what you're saying. But we process things, we do things differently. But it's a respect for the male and the female and the differences. And there are many different sexualities out there. It's not just heterosexuality, there's homosexuality, there's different aspects to sexuality. And it's not for us to judge who or how someone expresses their sexual self, just to understand that that is the essence of every single one of us. You don't get through this world, you don't get born into this world without that sexual thing happening.
Yeah. Dr. Lynn, this is interesting because, so as I'm hearing you say this, I'm curious. So, because now in our society, there are individuals that will transition from one sex to another. So for people that transition, are they being reborn now as a different type of sexual being, or is it how do you see that?
Well, that's something that's way beyond anything that I can explain, because I can't explain, because I don't know. I don't understand. I have never been homosexual. I have never wanted to transition. So I don't understand the process that someone goes through. And I don't understand the biology behind it. Is there a biological thing behind it, that happens? When I was living in Los Angeles for over 30 years, and I had lots of homosexual friends. I knew all kinds of people, and they were all really nice people. I didn't care what was going on with them, and we'd never talked about it, But it is, I think that part of it, this is just my opinion, part of it is there's a lot of social media out there, and there's a lot of times that young people get confused in the world.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get drawn into something that you may regret later on.
Yeah.
And, it's just like a good example might be, if you go back many, many years ago, if you were a homosexual man, you married a woman. You married a woman because that was safe, right? And you had a miserable time, and maybe you had an affair with someone on the side. So wouldn't it have been better had that homosexual man gone with a homosexual man, not have married a woman, had kids, put her through that, put the kids through, So it's important to be open and accept everybody, but it's all, and this is my opinion again, I really think that until a human being has reached the age of 18. Because you cannot have plastic surgery, you cannot get a tattoo, you can't buy cannabis. I mean, I'm going to go on and on here, right?
Mhm.
And yet at 10 or 12, you can have a sex change. What do you know at that age? And I think we need to allow them to get through that process. And then at 18, 20, that's your choice, what you want to do. The real key to everything in life, according to Karma Yoga, is do no harm.
Mm.
Yeah.
As long as you're not harming anyone or anything, go for it.
Agree.
Do no harm.
That's my, I know my opinion is, I know it's shared.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is, and thank you for that. Thank you. Bree, you were gonna say something. My apologies.
I agree 100%. Like, you can't, you can't get a tattoo. Like you said, you can't buy a beer. You can't do this, but you know what? Let's chop some body parts off and you can be the opposite sex, and it's like, it just blows my mind that's okay. Or they even have a discussion to talk about that. At 10 years old, you still want to be, a unicorn, when you grow up.
Right. You gonna put a horn in somebody's forehead?
Yeah.
And little boys at 10 years old might like cooking. Well, they might end up being a chef. It doesn't mean they have to transition to a female. But at 18, 20, if that person wants to, then, that's their business. That's how your body is at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Man, thank you. Because I had to, because when I saw this, I was like, I had to ask that question. Now, before we also, the other one, occult.
Mm-hmm.
People see that, they're like, no, don't talk about this. And you even mentioned before a witch. Like, some people will say, like, all right, well, herbs and stuff, and you mess with the moon, you're a witch, you're a bruja. But like, what really, like, in your perspective, what is the occult?
Well, that's a pretty open word.
Like, how would you describe it? Like, in the work that you do? Actually, let's go that route.
I would say magic. I would use the word magic. And I would say that there's a science to everything. Okay. And I used to make herbal potions, and we knew what the science was in the herbs and how to create these things. But there's an essence. When something is good and it's great, there's more to it than the components of the parts. So if you put parts together and you want it to be really something magical, there's an essence that goes in. There's an energy. So when I created my things, I would always give them a blessing. And the blessing was just, I'm here, I'm doing the best I can. I want this to be good for everybody. And that blessing was an energy that I put into things. And that to me is the magic in life, because you can't quantify that magic, and you can't say, well, that magic is a vitamin D that is good for you. You can't do that. But you can take the herbs and break them all down and say, all right, this is good because it gives you this, this, and this. Here's the science. Here's the magic. That to me is magic.
Bravo. Yeah. Oh, I think Brian and I, we've talked about the Hermetic principles. And I think that's magical. It's science, technically.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you go back in time, most of the scientific in history experiments were done kind of magically. And a lot of them were people had to hide what they were doing. Right? Because there was some kind of thing up here that didn't understand that person was trying to do something good. Now you can take magic and you can do bad things with it too. It's just like anything. You can take anything and make it bad and make it good, And I think that the real wonderful thing about magic is when you use it to make the world a better place. That's really what we should all be doing. But
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, that's the three of us here, but there's a lot of people out there that, and if you go back to the basics, deceit, greed, anger, and pride, those are the four things that are behind everything that is wrong in the world today. And we're never going to be able to change them. They will always be here. So you have to start from square one. They're always here. There's always war. There's always famine. There's always this stuff, chaos. It's always here. Now, how do I live within it? How do I make things better? Because it's not going to go away. We can't remove it and have a utopia. It doesn't exist, folks. It doesn't exist, you know.
So fortunate. This is great. This is great. And one thing I hear too is this is it's intentional.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes.
you know, this, and I appreciate that you brought out these 4 great passions, because I think with anything, like you said, magic can be like this, things can be neutral, is what's the attention that we attach to it. So if I'm doing something from one of these 4 great passions of deceit, greed, anger, and pride, what's my real intention?
Exactly.
It's most likely to do some harm to someone, right? So in that case, now we're doing some stuff, and hey, coming back full circle, karma's going to get your ass.
Exactly. I mean, you
In that case,
hear about,
right?
yeah, you hear about these people that get away with things and get away, and then 30 years, 40 years later, they get caught.
Yeah.
But it's not even the getting caught. Go back to if you steal something and you never get caught, you're a thief. I don't care whether you get caught or not. You are a thief. And you've got to live with that in your consciousness for the rest of your life. You know? I wouldn't want to live that way.
Me neither. Like, listen, I tell you, the time of this recording, there's like some celebrities that are going through some things. I tell you what, I would not want to be in that situation. That's some heavy stuff on that cat's head.
Yeah.
He's got all the money, all that, much more than I dare say, than the 3 of us will ever have. And yet, I would not want his life. Karma's coming around. It's coming around, you know. And
reap what you sow.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. It's
And
good.
you don't deal with it this life, the karma comes back in the next life. Right?
That is, well, that's why karma teaches us to work as hard as you can, because none of us are going to go and not come back. Because I mean, it would take you have to become the Messiah to have that happen. Right. But you come back, your life comes back better each time as you work through those things. So if you are a really horrible person, your next life, maybe you're the one that's going to get your teeth kicked in over and over and over again. You're the one that's going to be a sex slave, or, you know, have your head chopped off, or, you know, those things can happen in the next life, you know. So
we just interviewed somebody on Journey of Souls, who's one of the books out there. We just had her on the show. So after like reading that book, and it's not like I would never wish bad things to happen to anybody, but you see people like in terrible situations. I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, what the hell did you do in your past life? You know, and I don't want to be like, hey, everybody did something bad that happened, you know. But like after reading that book, I slowly started thinking at it a little differently, you know.
Whoa.
Exactly. And that's why, you know, I mean, be careful what you do, be careful what you say, be careful what you think, you know, because it does matter, because it's all energy. And that's what you're creating. You're creating the present energy and your future energy. That's what you're creating. Yeah.
Boy, listen, this was on point. Man, this, and by the way, Brian, I've been thinking about that ever since that episode, that Journey of Souls reading.
Yeah.
If I see something bad happen to someone, I'm like, dang, bruh. Or sis, what did you do? Get back on your ass this time. But so thank you for bringing that up, because I can't talk to many people like that. They'd be like, you're an asshole. But like, I'm sorry. I'm just saying, this is what happened. This was real. So, so Dr. Lynn, if someone wants to get in contact with you or do work with you or come take classes, how do they get in contact with you?
All they need to do is go to the website, which is drlynn.com, and it's spelled out DOCTORLYNN.com. Everything, you know, about me, my books, my classes, consultations, all of that stuff is listed on the website. And that's the easiest way to get in touch. Email is there, and there's a free newsletter they can sign up for. So, yeah, everything's right there.
Ooh,
thank you.
Look at nice. Dr. Lynn chilling. Books, DVDs, consultations and programs. Oh, that's a great color too. Go ahead, Dr. Lynn. Okay. All right, cool. So listen, everybody, you see the link here. We're gonna put this in the show notes. So get in contact with Dr. Lynn. Check. Oh, I just wanted to make sure I put that up there because you talked a lot about the yoga. So I wanted to make sure people knew you have the online Zoom classes. You could sign up here. There's a lot of ways that you can participate. Also, one of the things I wanted to highlight, this right here, the Yoga of Healthy Nutrition, the books that you have, bless up to you. Listen, you all thought it was only 2. Wrong. She's got a whole bunch of them, okay? She got a whole bunch of goody goods. So you can really tap into some of the richness that she's putting out here in the world and this karma that she's creating in this world. So bless up to you. Thank you, Dr. Lynn. Before we wrap up, Dr. Lynn, is there anything that you want to share with the people that maybe you have yet to, and you want to really you want to leave us with something?
Mm-hmm. What I would say to everyone out there is the most important thing in your life is to be true to yourself. And that means that you do no harm, but be true to yourself. Because when you veer off from that, that's when health things happen. You know, we get unhealthy body, mind, and soul. And I've always said, I have 2 grandsons, and I've always said to my grandsons, follow your passion. If it is passionate and you love it, follow it. It doesn't matter what anybody says. Follow your true self. Do no harm. Don't do anything illegal. Those are the only 2 rules.
Yes. You all heard it here. B, any last words?
No, I got nothing. I said everything I had to say, and I love listening. This is beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Dr. Lynn.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate this. It's been a lot of fun, and hopefully someday we'll do it again.
Yes, I hope so. Thank you, Dr. Lynn. We appreciate you. You're truly a gift. Thank you for joining. And for everybody that's joined the podcast, thank you for listening. If you're new here, like, share, subscribe. If you're returning, like and share, please, because listen, we want to get this out here. And this information, if you failed to do it, because I failed to mention beforehand, watch this again, grab a notepad, start writing down some of these things. I mean, I was taking notes throughout this whole podcast. Dr. Lynn is a wealth of information. So thank you so much for everything that you provided for our audience today. We appreciate you. To everybody, until next time, pow, pow, pow. Bro, you know we like to come through. Peace. See you, everybody.